Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I joined this, my 16th budget debate in the National Parliament. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I joined this debate with a heavy heart as our nation faces economic uncertainty, social tensions, and political strain within the highest institutions of our state. Mr. Deputy Speaker, admittedly, this is not the first occasion in our history when we have faced such challenges as a nation. However, I do believe it is the first time we have confronted such turbulence amid a growing sense of hopelessness in the government of the day, which appear rudderless, clueless, hapless, hopeless, and just less of a government. Mr. Deputy Speaker, their lack of vision, lack of plan, lack of program, lack of policy focus means that the prevailing sentiment is everybody fend for themselves. In all fairness, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when former prime ministers like A.N.R. Robinson, the first Patrick Bannon administration, Mr. Basdew Pandey, the member for Siparia, when former prime ministers faced similar economic climates abroad and home that impacted on the economy, at least, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it was felt that we had the human resources and the competence in government to sustain the lifestyles of Trinidad and Tobago, to sustain economic development, and to endure because persons had hope in their government and the competence of their government. Today, this Rowley administration has neither rhyme nor reason. For 1 year, they gallery, they lime, they play themselves, as we would say, have nothing to show for it.
Weddings.
They assess their performance by the conduct of the opposition. Remarkably, they blame us for their failure to deliver and perform 1 year after. Their shortcomings were vividly exposed by the leader of the opposition, who dissected the budget with a surgical precision and left this country firmly with the view that the Appropriation Bill 2016 would help no one and would not help to develop Trinidad and Tobago. Indeed, this budget is a betrayal of the people. Mr. Deputy Speaker, after hearing the member for Siparia, there are many of us who felt we should have declared the innings. Even in a 2020 match. It was enough runs on the board. The member for Moruga Tableland followed. All I would say, it was unfair to ask him to follow. It was terribly unfair for his leader of government business to do him that. Mr. Deputy Chairman, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I wish... I'll get to you later. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'll address a few issues raised by colleagues on the other side before I get into my presentation dealing with security, housing, land, and governance. Mr. Deputy Speaker, yesterday we heard from the, until then, silent Minister of Health. And the Minister of Health, in his presentation, took umbrage with the former administration and criticized the former administration for what he believed was sidestepping the Minister of Health, the member for Barataria Sawa, by appointing a health committee. And he was very clear in calling all the names of the members of this committee who sidestepped the member for Barataria Sawa. I want to ask him if he has the same problem in his current administration, where there's a tourism committee that is not led by the Minister of Tourism. In fact, recently, when members of the government met with sandals in Tobago, It was the Minister of Everything who spoke, who met, who accounted, not the Minister of Tourism. It was the Minister of Everything who spoke to the press.
Yes.
And it was not the Minister of Tourism, so the member for St. Joseph should tell us if he also has a problem with that tourism committee, as he does with the health committee. The member for St. Joseph, again, berated members of the opposition. Berated members of the opposition. We paid money when we were in government. Now we're in opposition, we're not paying in the Children's Life Fund. Forgetting that as a member for St. Joseph, he paid money neither in opposition nor government. Just paid nothing. And, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to recall and alert the member that Cabinet Minute number 1 of 2010 under the Partnership Administration established the Children's Life Fund and further enunciated policy where the Prime Minister would pay 10% of her salary and ministers of government pay 5%. Now, unless this government rescinded that decision, that is cabinet policy. So which means in 1 year, they have violated the policy of cabinet by not paying. So I want to tell you, pay up your arrears to the Children's Life Fund. Pay up your arrears. Otherwise, rescind the cabinet decision because you have just breached cabinet policy.
Shameless, man.
But they will not put a cent in the Children's Life Fund, but ask us, who making 1/10 of their salary, to continue funding the Children's Life Fund. That is the hypocrisy we talk about today. That is the hypocrisy. The Minister of Health, the deception, the Minister of Health following the Minister of Finance spoke about private institutions don't accommodate the public, and when you go as a member of the public to private institutions, they turn you back with contempt and so on. You all remember that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But then they are supporting the privatization of the Couva Children's Hospital. So you condemn the private sector, but you want to privatize the Couva Hospital. That is hypocrisy. I made a prediction before the last general election. The member for Caroni Central would remember well. I said that if it is, God forbid, that the PNM gets into power, that Couva Children's Hospital would have Karaili vine running on it, would have snake inside that building before the children of Trinidad and Tobago could be admitted as patients. And we will wait to see the Karaili vine run in the Couva Hospital. You see? I'll come to the Brand Lara later. My friend from Laventille East Mova, well, there's nothing much for me, but I really do admire your catch lines. All hands on deck. Children are our future. And I was, of course, taken aback with your mobile robot for planetary exploration. I mean, I can't beat that. So I leave that. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the issue of the day that affects persons, and let me say that today, this society is unrecognizable from the society we left in September 2015. Unrecognizable. Today, we have gone back to the pre-2010 frightening sense of insecurity. The joblessness, the hopelessness, the social tensions. I appeal to my colleague from Diego Martin O'Meara. I think Dabadi O'Meara, you are still in charge of TNTech as of now. No. Please, generate a call and let TNTech put 1 extra hour for the people doing the Ramley, like Air Road, Caroni, Central. 1 hour. Ramlila is a tourist attraction. It is a tourist attraction. Hundreds of people come to the villages throughout, to thousands to visit it is street theater at its best. It was proclaimed, and I think a famous writer, Derek Walcott. Derek Walcott wrote about Ramlila. The impact on the village, the impact on the small economy. Do you know at Ramlila celebrations in the night, you attract the food vendors, the micro enterprise businessman and woman. Families come out for clean enjoyment. And you will tell me a government in 2016 cannot put on the electricity for 1 hour more for 10 days? The Hindu people will tell you Lord Rama was in the forest for 14 years. Surely you could light the ground for 10 days. Come on. So, Dabadi Omera, use your ministerial office before it is removed and talk to the TNTech, please. Override regional corporation, call TNTech and tell them this is an important national event, a festival, and 1 hour more. Do that. Mr. Deputy Speaker.
There was no problem over the
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I listened with great attention to the member for Point 14. The member for Point 14 spoke last week on national security, as he's wont to do. It is a member for Point 14 told us about what they intend to do to fight crime. When he was speaking, there was a shootout at a barber shop. Not the barber shop of Lavantelis Mova, but there was a shootout at a barber shop where a person died, I think today or yesterday. Hassan Ali. We extend condolences to his family.
Hassan Ali.
Because Mr. Ali would have gone for a haircut, for trim. He went for a trim and ended up dead in a barber shop. This was during the presentation of the National Security Minister to the Parliament. That is the country we live in today. Today they pick up bodies as if it's, you know, the carcass of dogs around the country. Floating here. Somebody killed themselves. When you open an oil tank, you can't find oil, you find a dead body. That is Trinidad and Tobago today. 497, I believe, murders took place since they came into office. And the Attorney General, I'll come to that Attorney General momentarily. The new styled Attorney General stood yesterday, and you would never believe that since he took his oath to now, 497 people have been murdered in this country. The Minister of Finance waited 2 hours before he mentioned crime in his budget. Where in the world you would ever see that? Number one problem facing the country, crime. 2 hours into a national budget, we heard about crime.
Shameful.
That is a shame.
Shameful.
That is a shame. What is the meaning of statistics and arithmetic and data and revenue and expenditure if 500 people die? What is the meaning of that? And this is the Minister of National Security speaking last week, telling us about what we did before. And you know what struck me? When the Minister of Finance rose here last Friday, he started at 1:33, I will never forget that, 1:33. At 1:34, he blamed the former government. It took him 60 seconds. Why so long, I don't know, to blame the last government. And that has been the description of the speakers opposite. The country is fed up. Tell us what you are doing. Don't tell us what the partnership is. That would work for a few months. It cannot work now. Because you see, Mr. Deputy Speaker, they are distracting the national community from the serious problem of crime and health. The Minister of Health spoke. In San Fernando, I have a constituent who went last night around 9 o'clock. This is 3:16. He's still on a chair. I have a picture. He's still on a chair, sitting down in that hospital waiting for a bed. Do you know constituents of mine have to take their blanket to the hospital? Loved ones have to take water. Look where we went. Look where we reach again. So quick in 1 year. And we would not get that feeling when the minister speaks. Minister, I know you are passionate about yourself when people criticize you. But you must be passionate about health, not yourself. The Minister of Health, a few months ago, the Minister of Health speaking about the shortage of drugs for cancer patients and so on, said, well, they have to wait as if it's a toothache. You're waiting on. You have to have the empathy if you're in government. And the National Security Minister, with the greatest of respect, doesn't show that empathy. A kidnapped victim in my constituency, I doubt by now if the Minister of National Security has reached out to the family. I'm almost certain he never visited, but I doubt whether they reached out to assure a family. A loved one has gone missing, I think, for 2 weeks now. 3 weeks, no trace.
He said, don't blame me.
He said, don't blame me. Don't blame me. This is what we get from them. But the Attorney General, who I now will come to, spoke yesterday in the House, told us that every time they speak, they buff up somebody. There's a tendency in the government from the Prime Minister, come down, they buff up the public servant, buff up the people at Land, Commissioner of State Land Office. Next one, buff up the statutory authority. And next one, buff up the public officers somewhere else. The Health Minister, buff up the RHA. They buff up the police officers always to blame now for everything. The Attorney General and the Second Attorney General, the young and the restless, anytime they speak now, they threaten. They come to Parliament 1 year now talking about ghost workers. We hear nothing about that for 1 year. Now when they talk asset forfeiture, we're going after, we're chasing the money, we'll be following the money.
Money trail.
Who you following the money by yourself? You're following it with laws passed here. You have the majority to pass anything? No. We have to work together. But they will stand up and they come to the Parliament every week and pelt stone. And every time they pelt stone, they run. You know, it reminds me, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Yeah, it reminds me when we were in UWI, and let me go quickly. When we were in UWI, they stayed at Rapsey Street. We had a colleague there. He would go outside the house and pelt one stone and run back inside. And when the stone crashed on the galvanized, he would come and say, who do that? That is how they are. They pelt stone, and when you look to reply, they run. And when they accuse us in the Parliament, they cannot go on a platform and say that. They can't. They can't. They know what they're doing. So they speak about terrorism. I won't get to terrorism. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am the first person, well, I am one of them, who came to the Parliament and raised this issue of the ISIS and terrorism. I actually came to the Parliament with pictures in hand, warning the government that the biggest single threat we face, this generation would face, is from ISIS. It's from terrorism and those involved. I asked the government to consider policy initiatives and share with the opposition to work together. Nothing has happened. The Prime Minister announced in our crime talks with the member for Sipari opposition leader that they were changing the chairman of the National Security Subcommittee. I don't know if that happened yet. I don't know. Nothing has happened. But they speak about terrorism, financing terrorism and tracing the money and so on. Yesterday, the Attorney General spoke about 6 terrorists identified. And, you know, we're working to deal with them. We have deemed 6 persons, I believe. Today, I want to ask them, you know, to tell us a little more about these terrorist threats. And particularly children involved. You see, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I came some time ago, and I'm just looking through my own file here that I had. And I came here with about 113 names and pictures of adults and children involved in terrorist training. The Attorney General said nothing. The Attorney General said nothing, did nothing. When I warned a few months ago of children involved, and I can see it in my hand now, when you have children with their date of birth in 2005, date of birth 2005, they are off to Syria. And these war-torn areas for training. Another child with a date of birth in 2002. Another one with a date of birth in 96. These are young people. 113 young people involved. Whoa. And the government says nothing. The government does nothing. Mr. Deputy Speaker, what is worst is that we have also received other information. And before I get to that, I wanted to also indicate, Madam Speaker, I wanted to indicate that the Attorney General, whose responsibility it is to fight crime, has almost abdicated that responsibility. The ministry of the Attorney General today is a ministry where the confidence level is so low by the national community. They promise us, Madam Speaker, they promise us a legislative agenda. In 12 months, they bought 4 pieces of legislation, which they could not proclaim to date. I mean, the saddest part of this operation was when the Attorney General took his dear time for interpretation of exceptional circumstances, and a child subsequently died waiting. The Attorney General's office promised us whistleblowing legislation, whistleblowing and transparency and so on, only to be told by the Chief Parliamentary Counsel that that law would be unconstitutional. The Ministry of the Attorney General brought to us order for the Commissioner of Police appointment. We warned in the Parliament, the government, that this was unconstitutional. You know what happened? They continued. Might is right. They passed. It was left to the Supreme Court to strike it down and indicate that the opposition was right. The leader of the opposition was correct. The bail bills, frightening the population about that. And one thing after another. But Madam Speaker, it was shocking to me to receive photographs of young children in this country, young children with weapons, high-powered weapons, as I said before, training somewhere. I'm told the weapon is UMP 9mm caliber. What is frightening is the children, and I have the pictures here, using these weapons, and these weapons, Madam Speaker, have been weapons that have been issued, are common to the Defense Force of Trinidad and Tobago.
What, ACP?
Children with weapons.
ACP?
Madam Speaker, what is even more frightening, and I say this with trepidation, is that I am told that these children bear a striking resemblance to the children of a senior cabinet minister.
What? Toko Sani Grande.
A senior cabinet minister. And I am asking, Madam Speaker, that the children bearing these arms, because I want to come back to Lavanteli Smova. He said it is the children that we are here to protect.
Madam Speaker.
Standing order.
Standing order 48.6, please. Imputed improper motives regarding children of cabinet ministers.
A member for Oropouche. I would not allow that. It's more than an innuendo. It's a really pointed reference. And therefore, you know, if you have something, you then bring it in a particular way. So I wouldn't allow that. I just ask you to withdraw it. With your experience, I think your 16 years experience, you have a way that you can put.
Madam Speaker, for your guidance. Madam Speaker, I would not say cabinet ministers then. I would say they are children with a striking resemblance to senior government officials. And I would now ask the Attorney General of this country, I will pass this to him now, and ask the Attorney General if he recognizes the children in this picture. Madam Speaker, they are children toting guns. I will ask the Attorney General whether he recognizes these children. Because you see, the Attorney General speaks about chasing the money. Today I'm asking him, what about chasing the guns? Why are children in this country with UMP 9mm caliber machine guns posing for pictures? I am also informed, Madam Speaker, and I stand corrected,
Victory sign.
that these children posed with these pictures in and around October 2015 in the western part of Trinidad and Tobago. And these are weapons that belong to the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. What? That children were playing with, brandishing and taking pictures. Defense Force? Because they were gallerying. And I asked the Attorney General to cast his eyes on these pictures. I understand. I understand, Madam Speaker, these photographs which came to me are now on a Facebook page, aptly named Kick Out the PNM.
What?
So you can see it yourself.
The Chief of Defense Staff.
And I call upon the Defense Force now.
Know anything about that?
The Defense Force. Because quite recently, the Prime Minister made a statement at the Prime Minister's office, press conference, where he raised concerns about police officers, special branch officers, what he claimed receiving house because they were investigating matters of the former administration. The Prime Minister raised that issue. Today I want to ask the Defense Force if they are aware that children of high government officials have been playing with machine guns, toting guns. It is wrong, Madam Speaker, to tell the children of Lavantil, Beetham, Enterprise, Pinal, Debe, Barakpo, Shagwanas, to tell the children that you should not take up guns. But then we have our own children taking up guns. As Lavantil,
Chief of Defense Staff must clear the air.
Officials bearing guns or children bearing resemblance?
children bearing resemblance to senior government officials' children. So we're very clear on that. Madam Deputy Speaker, I brought this to the attention of the House because if what I am saying is correct, it speaks to recklessness. It speaks to the breach of the criminal law. It speaks to an abuse of office. Office. And if anyone is deemed to be responsible for these children, if anyone is deemed to be responsible for these children, they ought to demit public office today. Madam Deputy Speaker,
resign now.
I intend to send these photographs as well to the Honorable Prime Minister.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I want to indicate, Madam Speaker, that
the website.
the website, Madam Speaker, is a facebook.com, kick out the PNM, the website. You'll remember that, I think, easily.
Easy to remember.
And these pictures are posted there, and I asked the Attorney General to look at that and tell us if he can recognize those in the photograph. Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to move from this now to a matter involving housing. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we demitted office amid what I call the golden age of housing. We were giving 100 homes per week. We have had 2 ministers of housing since then, 1 year. We have had 2 ministers of housing. We have had the appointment, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have had the appointment of a new man on the job at the HDC. We have had the appointment of several persons at the HDC, but we have also had the firing of 9 senior managers at the HDC. And Madam Deputy Speaker, I will not spend all my time reciting achievements and so on. You can put on a sunglasses and drive around the country. You will see houses in Union Hall. You will see houses in Shagwanas, Princess Town. We repaired thousands of houses left by Diego Martin West. Thousands of houses we repaired. The member for Diego Martin West, speaking at a forum, I think a couple days ago, constituency forum, spoke about what Fort View in St. James. He was happy, View Fort, that they were going to continue it and finish it. The member for San Fernando, his poor fellow, may not know the history of that project. You know? You don't. That is a project that Diego Martin West started in 2006. At that time, they built without statutory approvals, without consultation with the community. Do you know when the HDC started to build that? A lady down there took the HDC to court and said that they were blocking her view and blocking the light. When we won it. You didn't win nothing, but when we won it, 2014, the HDC won that matter. So you are now free to complete the project. But the Prime Minister talking as if the partnership government held it up. It was held up in court because you did not speak, you did not build consensus with the community. So people take you to court. I will get, I think Paul Espe not feeling left out. So we'll have to get to him soon. So when I looked at the expenditure, well, only somebody with water could deal with a fireman. Madam Speaker, when we demitted office, we had started that program to deal with St. James, to deal with other sick projects in Endeavour, Shagwanas. The Prime Minister makes a comment about Victoria Keys. I don't know why he's talking about this. When we got in there, Victoria Keys building had rooms where if you had to put a bed inside, you had to wrap it around a post. They had small little apartment rooms like ghetto styling over there in Victoria Keys. We had to re-engineer Victoria Keys, Madam Speaker. So much so that when the work started, The member for Diego Martin West, I understand he was soliciting a penthouse at Victoria Keys. Yeah, he wanted a penthouse. I had no difficulty. I'm sure he could afford it. So, Madam Speaker, Victoria Keys is another sick project of the PNM that we inherited. But one of the biggest is not Las Alturas, although we all know of Las Alturas. It is Harmony Hall in Gasparillo. We have the big report here. Report on the structural retrofitting.
If you're going to display something, you should have sought leave before.
I will just describe what I'm seeing.
Yes.
On the front page, report of the structural retrofitting at Harmony Hall. Madam Speaker, it speaks of the need for works on 3 buildings because of problems with foundation, ground floor, superstructure, design. The Minister of Housing will have access to this. And you know the award for this contract? I have it in my hand here.
What is the value?
14 October 2015, signed by one Noel Garcia.
That man again?
The award for the contract, 14th October 2015 to Atlas Engineering. Signed by Noel Garcia.
So in last
2005, sorry. 14th October 2005.
So in Harmony
Noel Garcia
Hall-
again strikes.
In Harmony
That's a
Hall-
man with a minus touch. Anything he touches fall down. He has a minus touch. That's a minus touch.
In Mova, in
Harmony Hall. We had to relocate. I have the list of people here. We had to relocate 23 residents at Harmony Hall because of the problems at that building. My friend from Diego Martin Central talks about the Brian Lara. I'm waiting to see what game they're playing there, figuratively and literally. Madam Speaker, but I come to this HDC again. You see, when we left, they immediately fired, summarily, 9 managers at HDC. I have some emails in my hand here. Madam Deputy Speaker, it is frightening. Madam Speaker, it speaks about some serious matters here. Madam Speaker, it also involves the chairman of the Housing Development Corporation, the managing director. And I asked the minister to investigate, to look into this. How can, in a context where 160,000 people want housing, you yourself, minister, I felt your frustration when you bolted out of Stoops, I think, in San Fernando. I felt his frustration. I didn't do it in 5 years. I didn't do that in 5 years, but I felt his frustration because he's also a new man on the job. I felt the frustration, I understand. 160,000 people every day attacking you for a house, correct? All the people. But you have an assistant at the HDC to the managing director and the chairman, and the assistant's salary was increased from $13,000 a month to $18,000 a month to facilitate the purchase of an HDC house in Chaguanas. What is that? What is that? An assistant to the chairman? What's your assistant the chairman doing? The chairman is a new man on the job. What your assistant the chairman doing? Madam Speaker, I am as concerned with this as you are. You see, Madam Speaker, the salary was increased from 13 to 18.
How?
And to make matters worse, I am told that the HDC invested $100,000 in refurbishing that house for the assistant.
What?
Now,
What?
that the assistant, when you look through an email record which I have in my hand, Madam Speaker, they speak about employees writing the managing director and so on, and matters which are most dirty for me to discuss.
Who authorized all that?
Matters about missing you and not missing you, and you don't take my call and I don't take your call and you never have time for me and so on. This is not my business.
But who approved
This is
all
not my
this?
business. I don't get into these kind of things. And then you have
Who approved the salary increase?
the salary increase would have been approved by the board and the chairman.
And who approved the
Okay.
housing renovation?
Okay. Yeah.
Remember the rule with respect to silence? Please. I think, and I want to remind you, when you were on your legs, you had full command of this chamber. Continue, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, it's very critical that we investigate the allocation policy, and this over familiarity around the chairman and the managing director that permits those sort of things to happen. It cannot be fair that people begging and crying, I want a house, and an assistant at the chairman's office gets a house by increasing salary from 13 to 18,000 and refurbish the house too. HDC don't refurbish house for people, I want to tell you that. As courts that do that, not the HDC. Standards and courts and things will do that, not the HDC.
Furnish.
You go by them and you take a loan and you buy furniture. HDC don't put furniture in house that way. Mr. Minister, I leave that for your attention. Madam Speaker, I want to move on to another matter. A matter raised by the member for Siparia in her contribution last week. A very, very serious matter. And that matter, Madam Speaker, has to do with serious concerns about insider trading, serious concerns about the concentration of ownership of state assets in the hands of a few. You see, when the member for Siparia raised that matter, the Minister for Diego Martin, Northeast Minister of Finance, and the Attorney General, when 4:30 come, they didn't go for tea at all. They dived to the press gallery to answer the defense. They were concerned with answering the defense. They forget tea. They forget coffee. They were concerned when the opposition leader raised a matter dealing with public participation into the purchase of public assets. Because the Minister of Finance spoke in his budget, page 89 and 90, about an ownership structure that could emerge when you sell shares to existing shareholders in what he called, but I'm sure it's not, an initial public offering. That's what he was talking about. Selling the same people who have more. When we check the record, it was a concentration of ownership. And I wanted, and let me say, it doesn't matter whether Mr. Brooks resigned before the election or after the election. It doesn't matter. He has been for many years an agent of a conglomerate. He's an agent for many years. It doesn't matter whether it's 5 or 3, although we verily believe it is 5 shareholders. It matters the concentration of ownership in a few. And Madam Speaker, for those persons opposite who would not have been here, they would not have been here. We were here. This is deja vu. History is repeating itself repeatedly. In 2007, we had a scandal called the Stone Street Capital Scandal. This is where the then chairman of HDC worked with the then chairman of Udicot called the Hart, and they were purchasing Clico Investment Bank 44% of the Home Mortgage Bank. And the chairman of HDC approved $100 million from HDC to go into the CIB so that he could purchase that for Stone Capital. Do you know today, Udicot lost $100 million in Stone Street Capital, never to be recovered. $100 million gone when the Clico crashed. It was the CIB. So Stone Street Capital has returned in the form of this answer insidious, incestuous financial transaction where they are going to concentrate ownership again in the hands of a few. And it reminded me, Stone Street was Andre Montail, the former treasurer, I believe, of the People's National Movement, former chairman of HDC. And he worked with Calder Hart. Imagine Calder Hart and HDC put money into CIB for them to buy the CIB shares and send it to a private company owned by Mr. Montail and his wife. Patrick Manning, the late Patrick Manning, your predecessor, San Fernando East, came to the parliament almost crying blood. Patrick Manning, in a statement Friday, August 17, 2007, Madam Speaker, when Mr. Manning spoke to this and he agreed, he said it is wrong. It is wrong. While the report says that no laws have been broken, it defies and is contrary to stated government policy on corporate governance. Mr. Manning said that it defied his own policy and he was going to pass law. I advise you that we will amend the law to prevent this from happening, or we never amended nothing. But Mr. Manning condemned this. I ask you now, are you going to sit now and allow a few to go away with the asset base of TT and NGL. The same thing is happening again under another PNM, and it reminded me, Madam Speaker, of rent seekers. I wanted to alert my colleagues, those of you who had an exposure to EC 101 and so on, that there's a theory of rent-seeking activity. It's part of public choice theory developed by an economist, Gordon Trullock, and Annie Kruger. I think she was at the IMF managing director. And they developed public choice theory that spoke of rent-seeking activity. And rent-seeking activity is not renting one Alexander Place. It's not that. It is different. It is, Madam Speaker, attempts to capture regulatory agencies to gain a coercive monopoly that can result in advantages to rent seekers in the market. That is what it is. To capture state agencies, regulatory agencies, to concentrate ownership without wealth creation. And the classic example people would know is really the feudal landlord who puts a chain across a river and charges every boatman to come in. He's not creating wealth, he's taking wealth. He's a rent seeker. You're not creating. So this description of the rent-seeking activity, today I warn Trinidad and Tobago that a traditional elite rent-seeking class has taken control of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And they are doing this to concentrate power and authority in themselves, a small clique. They are happy to work with you because you will allow this so that they will have control. They will generate, they will earn wealth without generating economic activity. That is the hallmark. So it is not profit seeking, it is wealth seeking. And Madam Speaker, those persons know themselves, and the minister has spelled out a policy to create another ultra-elite rent-seeking class. And there are serious consequences for that in terms of the ability to outcompete genuine competitors in the marketplace. That is a consequence. There are public policy consequences of that activity. And today, Madam Speaker, they stand here and they must answer guilty as charged to selling out the assets of Trinidad and Tobago to a small elite in this country. And that is the point that we raised.
Guilty.
They are guilty as charged. And when we were there, we introduced an IPO. Well, they wanted to slam us from pillar to post. It was for the ordinary citizens. It was for workers. Public ownership. It was oversubscribed 3 times, I believe.
3.
By 3.
Yeah.
Today, they are going to do this. They promised to do this and to concentrate ownership into a few. I asked the minister to turn around. Jump on your boat and turn around.
Yeah.
Give us a policy U-turn on this matter and allow the public to participate fully in any second-round IPO. Surely you can do that before another boating excursion. Madam Speaker, on the matter of housing, I wanted to raise a critical matter for us on this side as well, on that. The housing matter is linked to land, because I'm moving from rent-seeking now, and rent-seeking involves enormous real estate. It's a real estate-driven activity. When we were in office, we introduced the most novel policy initiatives in land governance of a generation. It was called the Land for the Landless program. It was to allow ordinary men and women, low-wage workers, to get a plot of land and build their house. Because we recognize that not everybody could afford an HDC house. Not everybody wanted an HDC housing unit. Land for the landless. What did they do in 1 year? Absolutely nothing. Do you know there were 1,400 lots ready to distribute? Not one has been distributed by that administration in 1 year to persons. We did a draw, public draw, with accounting firm and so on. An accounting firm that Port of Spain North knows very well. An accounting firm supervised a public draw. And that accounting firm, yes.
Oropouche, your 45 minutes have expired. You're entitled to 10 more minutes. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, an accounting firm presided over that draw. And the accounting firm supervised 400 successful applicants. Not one applicant has received a plot of land under this administration. And when you pass where the lands are, it is overrun in bush. Bush, reptiles, you name it. That is what they prefer, to have the land in bush than to give ordinary, hard-working citizens a plot of land to call their own. Land for the landless. Madam Speaker, we left them, as the member for Couva South said, when we left the government campus, you know, I hear the minister and others talking about the government campus. Every single contract there had to be reissued. Work had to be reissued. That is, the government campus was the subject of a commission of inquiry, the Off Commission. A company called Sunway got a contract for $300 million without tendering. Calderhard said he didn't know that was his Sarabai. That was his brother-in-law.
Sarabai.
Sarabai. That was his Sarabai place. Well, brother-in-law, I think you could say that.
Same fax number.
See, didn't know that. We had to redo that. We gave all the contracts out, almost $1 billion we had to raise to outfit that. Today, all you have to do is buy 8 feet of ribbon and go and cut. Yeah. Cut one after the other. Open it. Cut. They're boasting about police stations. We built 8, and the 3 that are outstanding started under the partnership administration. St. Joseph on the bus route, St. Joseph, Maracas, and one more somewhere. Besson Street. That will finish as well. Yeah, you just buy ribbon and cut as you go along. You don't have to build, but all I tell you is take your time. You know you are known for speeding. You take your time. You are known for speeding. Madam Speaker, so the government campus is there. We also made headway, the Minister of Planning at that time, with Invaders Bay. Well, they quarrel, they fight. They use all type of bad language to describe Invaders Bay. Do you know that Invaders Bay, if properly developed, could add 10% to our GDP? Yes. And they talk about diversification. 10% to our GDP. I appeal to the government, get your act together and deal with Invaders Bay. It is an asset ready to explore. At a time when you claim you're cash strapped, and you know, the Prime Minister all the time, he comes, every time he talks, we don't have money. But $500,000 to go to fix the Prime Minister's house in Tobago. Madam Speaker, I was in charge of UDCOT. I tore that Prime Minister's house in Tobago. You're not doing nothing with $500,000 there. That will be $2 million when they're finished. That is $2 million to fix that. When I went to the cabinet and proposed that we fix the Prime Minister's house in Tobago, they chased me out. They said we don't have money to waste in Prime Minister's house. Today they are going to start with $500,000 to fix that house in Tobago. That is a scandal again, fixing the Prime Minister's house in Tobago. The Prime Minister's property in Tobago, when he goes for the 1 or 2 days, he could stay in his house, he could stay in Magdalena, Cocoa Reef, wherever. You're going to spend taxpayers' money at a time like this fixing the Prime Minister's house in Tobago?
Say it slowly.
What is that?
Scandal.
Yes. Then, Madam Speaker, they said they don't have money. They bought Casabon painting. So now the good people of Penal Debe could go to see the Casabon paintings. Because that's what we were waiting for all these years. You see? We can go to see the painting. They waste and squander the money at a time when you don't have. But the one that really shocked me is Sunday gone. Saturday, October, what is this? 8, yeah. October 8. Now, the Ministry of Rural Development puts an ad in the newspaper, 3 ads, to highlight that they paved 3 roads. And one of the roads looked like a bicycle path. I don't know if anybody saw this.
Yes, I saw that.
$45,000 in ads to show 3 roads, and one looked like it's for walking. That is the Ministry of Local and Rural Development. And you claim that you don't have money?
They have nothing to show.
You have nothing to show. You picking up bicycle path to advertise? Madam Speaker, they are wasting money. The population today, appeal to you. Don't feel. don't feel that the government don't have money. They have. And they have money to spend on their own priorities. Their own priorities. But as I end, they don't have money to spend on the real priorities facing the country, which is the social safety net, which is the human capital formation. Even in crime, do you need $119 million in spy equipment? To mako who? To watch who? Your ministers? That's what you want to see? $119 million going for that?
All of them being Mako.
When you could have invested that in a social program, you could have invested that, an expand gate to the persons 50 years and over. You are asking workers who are older to retrain themselves to the modern workplace, and you just cut out their ability to fund their education. What policy contradiction is that? Who could think of that? Only the member for Diego Martin Northeast could come up with that. Madam Speaker, in terms of policing, and I want to end as I began with crime, we have to get our priorities right. This is a country where you cannot find a murderer, you cannot find a kidnapper, you cannot return a kidnapped victim. But if someone 2 kilometers over the highway, police in the bush waiting to track them down. They're tracking down anybody. In fact, if the kidnappers were speeding, they would be caught. Huh? Yeah. If the kidnappers were speeding, they would be caught. But if they had a drink, they would be caught twice. You have to get your priorities right. You cannot prioritize policing by expending so much energy on one thing. It's fine, we have to stop accidents and so on, but you need the resources, the technology into fighting crime. And you need to take the guns off the hands of children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take the guns off the hands of children. Huh? You have to take the guns away from the hands of children. And the Attorney General has not showed up in the House yet. He has not showed up because I was eagerly awaiting him to identify the children with the guns. He has not showed up. I'm hoping that he could do so before the day is done.
Only terrorists.
Because I will send him the picture. And it is wrong, it is wrong, it is wrong. We cannot build a society where we encourage children to take up guns. We cannot build a society where we encourage children to use 9mm UMP caliber weapons as if it's a game and a toy. That is what we have reached to. We cannot build a society by transmitting those messages. I wanted to make a point that I can't make here at all. In fact, I don't know how to soften this point. There are members opposite who inadvertently, because they cannot be doing it deliberately, they can't, by their utterances, could be encouraging crime. They cannot be doing it deliberately. When you stand up and you call people thief, and this one thief, and that one thief, and anybody, the former ministers and the former this, you know what you're doing? You are telegraphing to the society and the criminal elite. It is okay to steal, to rob, because you see them fellas in jacket and tie and business suit, that is how they get there. That is what the message you are sending, that the persons in jacket and tie and business suit, they got there by stealing, so it's okay. You could take piece of the action too. You are sending a wrong message. If you have evidence of wrongdoing of anyone, take it to the right authority, take it to the Integrity Commission. Write the Integrity Commission. I challenge you, write the Integrity Commission and say who have land, who have house, who have shopping mall.
Who have mall?
Man, write anybody you want, write the mall. But do not, former minister declare his name, it took him about 3 years. But do not raise allegations like these. You are telegraphing to that community of criminals that it is okay to steal and to rob, and particularly rob people who look like you. Huh? Rob people who look like you. That is what you are telegraphing. So when you have information, don't come in Parliament and gallery yourself with it and think. Write the relevant authority. Call for investigations. You have information. But this tendency of the government frontline speakers is promoting the criminal elements in Trinidad and Tobago. They're doing that. Madam Speaker, in closing, I want to remind the national community that there will be no change in the next year. We don't expect anything to happen, and certainly nothing good. The budget the budget has spelled out no new initiatives, no fresh and novel policy considerations for this country. It is the same old, same old. It is tax, 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 and spend, 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 and blame, blame, blame. It is for 1 year. There's no creativity. The Minister of Finance, who spent his early years in works and transport and so on, has brought a budget that really nothing will work. And the online tax is a classic example. Today, more and more people are speaking about that tax.
Your 10 minutes have expired.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.